It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Wednesday, July 21st, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is going on today? It is Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. We call it Hump Day over here in America. And today we'll get some coronavirus updates. We have current news from around the world, realizing from the Tuesday morning message. And of course, we have Victory Rhymes with Youngse from South Africa. All right, guys, how are you doing? It is Wednesday. Thankful for all of you joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. Looking forward to Sunseem's preaching tonight. So let's start the day well with today's show. And just want to remind everyone to keep liking and commenting and want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. So write your questions, requests, testimonies, your feedback. All are welcome. Yesterday, what happened? We just had another Lab 78. It is the last Lab 78 for our Espresso with Sky channel, and we're going to be switching to a new, a new format. We're going to go a little bit more spiritual, so it'll be a lot easier for you guys to help newcomers to answer a lot of questions. Go ahead and check that out. We're going to probably be starting within the next 3 weeks on that new direction. And also remember, this week's Sunday edition, I interviewed Tien Dao from San Francisco in the US. And make sure to catch that interview. A lot of feedback. They are so inspired and moved by the interview. It is amazing. Just the miracle that God did in his life. And of course, next Sunday edition, we'll be meeting another member from somewhere else around the world. So look forward to another inspiring interview. Monday, Zoom Bible study. It was posted on Patreon yesterday, and we did 3 divisions and about 130 people joined. So a great time we had together there. So let's get into it. It is the featured artist of the day. Today's featured artist is Isomers from Paper Music Associates in Korea. And I believe that's going to be like 3 different rappers from J Root, Saint Green, and Man and Groom. So it's a great song called LYL, Live Your Life. So that's our featured artist of the day. Then we have Kuma-chung from Japan with Stop the Elevator. And then last but not least, we have Mariah Henry from America with Lost Ones. All right, guys. So as we are getting, guys, already 21 more days. I don't know if it's say 21. It was 30 plus 21, 51 days in. 19 days left, guys, for this 70-day prayer condition. So hope that all of us will really be able to lock in on these last 19 days. And make sure you put in a little prayer for these member artists from around the world.
남시계 마냥 부조신자니 너희들의 폭음덕에 나 듯이 애맨 드림 단계 난 들고 들어갈래 heaven 왜 스프링 자리 잡고 나도 구원받아 자본주의 돈 버는 마시네로 너로 시리가 돼도 좋아 주머니만 채워줘 비꼬르 꽁이라서 날 더 깨워줘 잡자 나의 같은 나를 데리게라 쥐를 밟아주려 하리 또 연임이 오신 덕에 난 더 빠르게 될 수 있어 내 100천만 원은 그때니 5천만의 라이스길이 결국엔 말이 한 곳으로 모이지 돈이 뭐니 넌 결국 답이 돈 없음 불행하지 너만큼 지루하지 비슷했건 구름대로 비가 되지 아버지만 아니 헤어질 것도 포함이 저 비꼬는 거 아냐 비스코 찍다 미안해 I'm a lover yeah ever dream 죽었다면 난 꿈을 못 꾸지 네가 말한 생각이 또 틀린 거니 먼저 버린 왜 너만 계속하니 내 꿈 찾으러 왜 날이 올라가리 따뜻해 해도 야 외로워 또 미래 같이 가는 형들 기다리고 있음 알았으면 짐을 싸야지만 나를 많이 사랑 나는 꿈을 꿀 사람은 가는 곳이 않아 8살에 나침반 가슴 중에 팡 나는 아이언맨 모든 미래 드림날 이걸 잊지 마라 몰라면 어때 시간 빠르게 해서 정신 차려 멈춰 네가 말했던 가나 네가 가만히 있어 생겨나면 식 정도면 감사해 가
다시 번 던지고 fly away 뭘 고민해 시간 아깝게 누가 뭐래 Cause I want it like a child again yeah 눈을 떠보니 잊어버렸었지만 꿈에서 봤던 내가 아직 거기 있다면 take me there yeah
알람은 꺼져요 Why are you 안 달라 꿈속에서 꺼내와 사랑의 내 꿈 그래서 만날 거야 기다려봐도 난 널 보고 죽을래 시간이 빨라 놓치기 전에 퓨 보름달이 펴에서 달려 I go like 꿈꾸도 waste my 게임말이 얼었잖아 내가 신발 봐 I want no city 당당하게 그럼 결국 날 날려 걸음의 생이 될 거야 내 기억 내 막으로 못 넘겨 들어 넌 그러건 꿈꿔 yeah.
남이가 내게 기웃거리봐 내 꿈에 눈이 멀어버리는 게 나 Just live your life, live your life 다 집어던지고 fly away 물고기를 씌어나깝게 누가 뭐래 Cause I want this like a child again 눈을 떠보니 잊어버렸었지만 꿈에서 봤던 내가 아직 거기 있다면 take me there
lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, you right now that I need. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. We stay looking for someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I'll believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. 10 years of struggle, 10 years of pain, but I'll finally get to see you no more. Just calling your name. Ones who wonder who, just open up your eyes. He's waiting for you too. He's not a man in disguise. And the hardest cross to bear, but your heart's not what I'll wear. To think this effort and this love could overcome the dirty stairs. And it's all because of you. Yeah, it's all because of you. Said it's all because of you. Yeah, I need you. For someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one.
And there you go. That is Mariah Henry from America with Lost Ones. Before that was Kumachung from Japan with Stop the Elevator. And of course, the feature artist of the day, it is Isomers from PMA in Korea. All right, hope you guys enjoyed that music from the member artists from around the world, which means we're going to move on to the news going on around the world, starting with the coronavirus updates. 191.7 million cases, 4.1 million deaths, and the mortality rate has dropped to 2.14%. Now, in top 5 countries going by daily infection rates, we have India, that has 31.1 million cases, 414,000 deaths. Russia, 5.9 million cases, 149,000 deaths. The UK, 5.4 million cases, 128,000 deaths. Iran jumps into the top 5 with 3.5 million cases, 87,000 deaths. And of course, once again, Indonesia, 2.9 million cases, 74,000 deaths. Now let's take a look at the daily infection rates. The UK, once again, 2 days straight, they are on top with 39,000 cases in a single day, even though they're moving out of their social distancing. They're going back to normal, which is quite interesting. But they have almost 70% of their population that's fully vaccinated, so they should still be seeing less hospitalizations and less deaths each and every day. Indonesia, 34,000 cases. And guys, we're going to be taking a look at Indonesia in the news right after this when we look at the top 3 news, what's going on over there in Indonesia. It's been pretty bad for the past several weeks. Iran is in 4th with 25,000 cases in a day, and then Russia with 24. Over here, Southeast Asia, of course, Indonesia, 34,000 cases, and then Malaysia, 10.9 thousand cases, and then the Philippines with 5,600 cases in a single day. So let's take a look at the top 3 news for today. We're going to start off with Indonesia and COVID deaths that are going unreported. So more people are being forced to isolate at home as overall hospital turn patients away, and many are dying. And the sounds of grief is just way too familiar for everyone over there. Burial sites, grave diggers work well into the night to keep up with their workload. And there's a lot of volunteers that are now an essential part of Indonesia's funeral industry. So this month, Indonesia overtook India's daily coronavirus case numbers and surpassed Brazil in reporting the world's highest number of daily deaths attributed to COVID. So Indonesia, so far, their death toll stands at over 73,000 deaths. But on Monday, just Monday, Indonesia reported 1,338 COVID deaths, which it's the highest ever and in the world. But experts warned that even though these figures are an undercount because the country's testing for the coronavirus is very low. As overwhelmed hospitals are forced to turn away the sick, more people are dying at home in isolation. Many have never even had the chance to be treated by a medical professional. Now, there's a group called Lapor COVID-19. It's an independent group that collects and collates pandemic-related data. Now, Ahmad Arif is one of the co-founders of the group, and they said that their research indicated that the actual death toll is 3 to 5 times higher than the government figures, which means that the minimum is like 220,000 deaths is the minimum, and up to what? What's 73 times 5? That's like over like 350,000, 360,000 deaths, which would bring them to like number 3 in the world. So that's pretty crazy right there too, or maybe 4 in the world. What they're saying is at Lapor COVID-19, this independent group that's saying that most of those who died in isolation had trouble accessing the hospitals. Their condition deteriorated and they tried to go to hospitals, but they are full, so they died at home. And they see many deaths of people in self-isolation is an indicator of the collapse of the health services. And far from the situation actually getting better, there are signs that a health crisis is forming even in Indonesia's more remote provinces as self-isolation deaths have started to happen outside of Java, right? So this is an indication that cases cannot be contained by health services anymore. So we're looking at like even in smaller areas, we have like dozens of volunteers in the burial task force, and most of them are women. Right? So that's what's going on over there in Indonesia. So that's pretty bad. On the second news, it's kind of what we need to know about when it comes to mixing COVID vaccines. So we talked a little bit about it yesterday, that a lot of countries are beginning to start mixing vaccines. So several countries have approved mixing COVID vaccines as they seek to boost their inoculation campaigns as the highly transmissible Delta variant of the coronavirus spreads in dozens of countries around the world. Several governments are mixing vaccines in an attempt to boost their inoculation drives. Now, mixing vaccines means administering one brand of vaccine for a patient's first shot, followed by a vaccine made by a different manufacturer for the second dose. Now, proponents of the policy believe it can increase the speed and effectiveness of vaccination campaigns, and several ongoing studies are investigating the effects of mixing coronavirus shots. Data has been released from mixed trials in Spain and the UK, which suggests that mixing vaccines leads to a strong immune response and sometimes outperforms 2 doses of the same vaccine. Now, in Germany, there's a third study that revealed that immune response of mixing coronavirus doses was better than 2 AstraZeneca shots and as good as or better than receiving 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. So which countries are mixing vaccines? You got like Bahrain, Bhutan, Canada, Italy, South Korea, Thailand, UAE. They have all begun mixing vaccines as policy. I know Malaysia is joining, Indonesia, Thailand, they're all joining this too, adding on top of the Sinovacs. And the practice was quietly authorized in January by the Public Health of England when vaccine supplies were limited. Now, in the same month, U.S. media reported that the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention in the U.S. relaxed its recommendations authorizing mixing in exceptional circumstances. So in March, several countries paused their vaccine drives amid concerns of extremely rare blood clots associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. As a response, in some countries, healthcare workers were authorized to administer a different vaccine for some patients' second shot who received the AstraZeneca jab for their first shot. Now, Dr. Gloria Taliani, professor of infectious disease at Sapienza University of Rome, told Al Jazeera that mixing has been commonplace when treating other diseases in the past. So she noted that there might be some questions since this is the first time mRNA vaccines have been used to protect against infectious diseases, but says there were no biological reasons that suggest mixing could be dangerous. So several world leaders have mixed vaccines too. In recent months, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, she received the second dose of the Moderna vaccine after receiving the first dose of AstraZeneca. Italy Prime Minister Mario Draghi switched to Pfizer for his second dose after receiving an AstraZeneca shot. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau switched vaccines, receiving Moderna shot after an AstraZeneca one. So is mixing COVID vaccines effective? Well, the University of Oxford, they have this trial involving more than 800 volunteers investigated the efficacy of either 2 doses of AstraZeneca, Pfizer, or one of them followed by the other. And according to the results, mixed schedules involving the Pfizer vaccine and AstraZeneca shot generated a strong immune response against the virus. And the results of the study suggest that the order of the vaccines made a difference, with AstraZeneca followed by Pfizer inducing higher antibodies and T-cell responses than Pfizer followed by AstraZeneca. Basically, T-cells stimulate antibody production and help combat the virus-infected cells. So the research also showed the 2 doses of Pfizer produced the highest level of antibodies. Now, both of the mixes generated better results than the still very effective 2-dose AstraZeneca vaccines. Separately, also in May, a Spanish study involving more than 600 volunteers found that an AstraZeneca followed by Pfizer was more effective than 2 AstraZeneca doses. However, experts say there's a lack of sufficient clinical data to fully determine whether mixing is effective. So, is it safe to mix them? There's no results from the studies have suggested that mixing leads to severe side effects, but results from the British studies suggest that mixing vaccines can lead to an increase in mild or moderate side effects. So results from the Spanish study found that mild side effects were common and similar to those reported from 2 doses of the same vaccine. There are mixing over here in Malaysia too, and it seems like it is not too bad. Okay, last but not least, third news, and the last one for today is we're going to Peru, and finally they have named their president-elect as the incumbent has conceded, right? So the 51-year-old former rural teacher has promised to create a fair and more equitable country, and this is Castillo, right? Rural teacher turned politician Pedro Castillo has been named Peru's president-elect 6 weeks after a polarizing vote in which his right-wing rival Keiko Fujimori alleged that there was electoral fraud. Now, the official count released on Monday, and more than a month after the runoff election took place, showed Castillo, whose supporters included Peru's poor and rural citizens, defeated Fujimori by just 44,000 votes. Now, she now faces trial on charge of corruption. So, basically, Castillo told reporters on behalf of his family he would like to salute the electoral authorities and also to salute the political parties that have taken part in the democratic celebration. And he said, "Dear compatriots, I bring here an open heart for each and every one of you," and he declared from the balcony after Jorge Luis Salas, head of the Jurado Nacional de Elección elections jury, announced Castillo's victory in a brief virtual ceremony. Hundreds of supporters who had spent weeks outside the JNE headquarters to support Castillo broke out in celebration of the news, and he'll be sworn into office on July 28th. And he says, finally, they have a president, right? So there's... he doesn't have much experience with governing, right? So this is he doesn't, right? Because he's a rural teacher turned politician. But basically, he won the election cleanly and transparently, and Democrats in the region have been welcoming him. So Castillo campaigned for office, promising to improve the lives of Peruvians, contending with a recession worsened by the coronavirus pandemic. The country has been crushed by the coronavirus, with about a third of people now living in poverty, and the disease exposing the inadequacies of Peru's public health system. So who is this guy, Castillo? He's basically a political outsider, right? Kind of like how Trump was. He wasn't a politician, right? And he's a son of peasant farmers, and Castillo has pledged to redraft the constitution and increase taxes on mining firms, although he appears to have softened earlier calls for the nationalization of mining and natural gas companies. Peru is a key producer of copper, gold, silver, lead, and zinc, and mining brings in 10% of the national gross domestic product and a fifth of company taxes, right? So historians say Castillo is the first person from outside the elite to become president despite the economic gains of the past 20 years. So that is the top 3 news for today. So let's get into sports. What's going on in sports around the world? Number 1 is, Monday Night Football. For those of you in America, American football is the most popular sport in all of America and probably in the world too. Maybe, right? But maybe not actually not more than soccer, but this league itself is probably the most popular. And on Monday Night Football, for those of you guys who love it, Peyton Manning and his brother Eli Manning, they will be headlining Monday Night Football broadcast every other week. That's cool for me. Former NFL quarterbacks Peyton Manning and his brother Eli Manning will take part in an alternate Monday Night Football broadcast over the next 3 seasons, right? So Monday Night Football Megacast will air on ESPN2 for 10 games in each of the next 3 seasons and will include current and former NFL players and celebrities joining the Manning brothers on the broadcast, and a host has not been named yet. Second news for sports, we have the NBA Finals, right? Game 6 is going to be it's going to be on Tuesday night, which is going to be Wednesday for us here. Elimination game for the Phoenix Suns. And guess what? Giannis Antetokounmpo is dominating. The two-time MVP just became the fourth player ever to average 30 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and 60% shooting over a 5-game span within a single postseason, joining Tim Duncan, Charles Barkley, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But unlike those other legends, Antetokounmpo is the only one who has done that during the NBA Finals, right? So he is the lead frontrunner to become the MVP for the NBA Finals if the Bucks can win that game and win the championship. Last but not least, we have NFL rankings, and in the rankings so far we have the KC Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes on top, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. So those are the top 3 of the entire NFL. We'll see once the NFL starts, guys. Eyes are glued. It's the greatest sport in the world, to be honest. For me, when I look at that, it's such an amazing sport. Those of you guys don't know, just watch one game. It's even exciting to watch just on TV too. A little bit confusing sometimes though. All right, guys. So that is a sports news for today, which means what? It's time for us to get into something a little bit more spiritual. It's time to get into the golden time, right? We'll get into something more spiritual. So we'll have a time of praise and worship. We'll start with Life of Heaven, and then Hero, and then we'll end off and we'll break it down with I Have Found a Treasure. So everyone, I hope that all of you can praise with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. Excuse me. Praise with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and as we give glory to the Holy Trinity as one body of the Morning Star Drive.
Created on earth is a perfect world of heaven. We live with the Lord and all is earth, and that's true life of heaven. As we serve our God in Holy Spirit, here with the Lord, we fulfill the rapture here on earth, and it's a life of heaven.
Everything God created in this whole world, the earth, sea, and sky, it's heaven on earth. Wherever we are, if we serve the Lord, if we live as one, it becomes heaven on the earth. Everything God created
it. We know we can get it up, hear what we are saying. Friends, what he thinks, those are not even problems for us. Satan is not a problem, we can knock him out for sure. We are growing every day, we are becoming the Lord's army. Only the Lord, how can we say it's hard and it will work out? With the Lord we'll move ahead and always go forward.
This world's full of signs, but no destination. This chaotic world just confuses me. Their words won't remain, they will melt like stone, and then the truth will be revealed at last. I can hear a voice that's calling from somewhere. We can change ourselves again. I'm set on fire, my body surges with power. Don't forget this day. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. And as one, we'll turn the world upside down. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. You and me, we are the owners of history. None can compete with this great power from God. The world's so frustrating, so I will use this power, making it shatter. We can change it. We can change it, yeah. Starting now, we pray this will be fulfilled. Don't forget this day. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. And as one, we'll turn the world upside down. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. You and me, we are the owners of history. I have found a treasure shining bright. Here I am, standing in that place. In my heart, I'm singing praises of great thanks, and the Lord's love rises from deep within. Love fills my heart and overflows. With the Lord's condition, we can see this blessed history. Forever I'll be thankful to you, Lord. In this place that you've prepared for us, I have found a treasure here. My love will burn, it will never change. I give love and praise to the Trinity. You've given me so much, so with all my heart and mind, I'll live for the Lord, I'll live for His will. This history of life I will surely fulfill. Now the time that God has set has come, and He has blessed us with treasures. In my heart I'm singing praises of great thanks, and the Lord's love rises within my heart. love fills my heart and overflows. To you I've received the gift of blessings from the Lord. Rise up and be a standard for this time. Don't lose the heart you had at first. Know the value of the Lord. Shine the light and live, making our Lord proud. I give love and praise to the Trinity. You've given me so much, so with all my heart and mind, I live for the Lord. I live for His will. This history of life I will surely fulfill. I give love and praise to the Trinity. You've given me so much, so with all my heart and mind, I live for the Lord. I live for His will. This history of life I will surely fulfill. I give thanks to you. Oh, how I love you, Lord. You love me so much, and because you love me so, I receive this gift, this treasure of lasting love, a treasure that never fades. I'm so grateful, my Lord. I'm so grateful, my Lord. I'm so grateful, my Lord.
And there you go. That is I Have Found a Treasure. Before that was a song, Hero. And of course, that first song was Life of Heaven. I hope you guys had a great time giving honor, praise, and glory to the Holy Trinity. That was the beginning of our golden time. All right. So what is going on for our word study today? And we're going to take a look at the Tuesday morning message. Now, it starts off with something very, or a big reminder is this is the words of God that has been proclaimed. So now that it's been proclaimed, we have to be those, especially with this week's message, we must do these things right now. And there's 3 parts to it, right? So we start off with being clean, right? Clean yourself, repent, evangelize, be careful every day, fulfill God's will, and this is why God is telling us to do it this week. So let's take a look at these 3 things step by step, okay? So the first one we want to take a look at is being careful. Okay, you talked about the golf cart, right? But we'll talk about being careful. And being careful is about what? If we're not careful, we get into danger. If we're not careful, we get into harm's way, just like how he fell asleep while he's driving. And just like how we can fall asleep when we are living our life of faith. And that, what does that mean? It means that we stop thinking about what God wants and we start to focus on ourselves. So it's about extending our life, not just physically, but also spiritually. And we need to be careful. Or else what happens is you could get into an accident where you can't do anything, even the things that you wanted to do in the past, right? So the message has been proclaimed. So don't forget, everyone, we have to be careful constantly, right? When you're driving, when you're going out, when you're talking to people, like all these things we have to be careful about. And since, especially for those of us, I'm saying us now, but those of us who lived a little bit longer, right? We see that there's so many things that we have to be careful about. And it's always receiving harm is when you forget to kind of be careful. Like I would even put this into like your school and your work. You have work and when you're very careful and you're very meticulous about your work, you don't miss any of these small things. But when you're in a rush, when you're not thinking, you're not careful, is when you miss those really important things that you should have put into your work projects or school projects. And you miss those things. You're like, oh man, I always do this, but I just didn't do it this time. And instead we receive harm. And it was very interesting when he talks about mosquitoes, because you're like, come on, like, do mosquitoes really, like, is that really something that harms us? And he's like talking about being itchy after being, being bitten by a mosquito. You got to take the blood out right away so you don't get itchy. But he moves straight into the spiritual. If you're not careful, right, when you're bitten, it's the same thing as not being careful when you're bitten by Satans and slanderers, right? And some people can even die. And it's true. One of the biggest reasons why people die around the world is because of mosquitoes that carry diseases with them, like malaria and other things, right? And that's one of the biggest reasons why people die around the world. So a lot of us here might think to ourselves like, what? Come on, I get bit by mosquitoes all the time. Right? It's not a big deal. Even for myself, I remember when I was a kid, I sometimes got more than 20 mosquito bites in a single day. I'd be scratching all over my arms and my legs, right? I would never be scared. But when you look at the stats in the world, it's the number one reason why people die in the world is because of mosquitoes. As crazy as that sounds, right? If you're not careful, you'll be bitten by Satans and slanderers, and you can even die. So don't forget this. Yes, you can be bitten and then not die, but it's just so annoying, irritating. You're just stuck with this, right? But we have to realize mosquitoes not a small thing. It's actually a huge thing, right? Third thing, the big one. Let's take a look at the next one, which is evangelism. This is a very, very big one. And I like this the way that Sunsi put it in the morning. So if you don't evangelize, no matter who you are, you're not going to be able to fulfill God's eternal will. Or your eternal will. So what does that mean? Because I don't evangelize, I can't fulfill God's will. What does that mean? Right? And what does it mean that I can't fulfill what pertains to God? Right? What does it mean my body and spirit's not going to be able to fulfill the eternal will? Like, how does that make it? How does that even connect? Right? But put it this way: it says, because you yourself have been evangelized, you can now fulfill God's will, right? That's what we're doing. If you look at all of us here running in this history, because we've been evangelized, we are able to fulfill God's will, right? And because we are evangelized, we have hope of eternal life. We have hope of the future, the eternal hope of the future. Now, if you're not evangelized, there is no eternal hope. Your hope is in the physical. It's in the temporary things like money and housing and cars and all these other different things. So if we don't believe in God, there's no eternal hope. They only have this temporary hope. But when we evangelize, then someone else receives that eternal hope. But not only that, they can now fulfill God's will. So think about this. God's will is more than this one huge thing that has nothing to do with me. God's will has to do with all the thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people that eventually come to believe in God. They will fulfill God's will because God's will is that big. It's not something that you could just do by yourself, right? In order for us to fulfill God's will, evangelism is a must because only when they're evangelized do they start to fulfill God's will. So the more we evangelize, the more the will is fulfilled. So it's kind of amazing how he put that. Because by ourselves, we can't do it. If Sunsi could do it all by himself, there's no point of evangelism. He just does it by himself. He doesn't have to preach the gospel. But when he realizes, wow, this has to happen for God's will to be fulfilled, he starts evangelizing like crazy. 10,000 people in a year. Because you realize it can't be fulfilled if you're just by yourself. How can the worldwide heaven, worldwide people fulfilling the purpose of creation of all these people that God had created, how can they fulfill God's will if only one person knows? The more you evangelize, the more the will is fulfilled, right? This eternal hope that we get from being evangelized, all these eternal hopes and wishes, everything's about God's will. The best thing in life is having that eternal hope, and we need to give it to people, right? So we can live eternally with our spirits, fulfilling everything through, fulfilling this eternal life in our spirit through our physical bodies. And like Sansi was saying, that many people don't even know. They don't know about God, so they live an ignorant life. And they're waiting for the gospel even though they don't even know it. But they're looking for this happiness. So it's only the people that know the gospel, that know this history, can be loyal and do things until the end. But if you don't even know, think about this. How big is ignorance? As long as you know, you can do things until the end. But if you don't know, you can't even start. Yeah, that's how big ignorance is. You cannot resolve anything eternally if you don't know. So we need to know. We need to love God, serve Him, go in front of Him, fulfill His will, and this is when we receive blessings. So think about this. So many people with authority and possessions, right? And Sansi was talking about that one person who asked him if he could stop, and they just wanted to believe in God and Jesus, right? In the past. And Sansi was like, well, you're going to go hungry. And he's like, that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. And in the end, he didn't starve. And now, basically, he's received the eternal life. So many problems were resolved, not just his own problems, but he solved other people's problems too. So the thing is, even if you have all this authority and all these possessions, what's the point if you can't get the eternal things? So I like this point here too, and I think this is something that we have to understand is people who go through a lot of tribulation, their mentality becomes strong and scary actually. Now what does that mean? It means people who have that strong mentality, like I think it's comparing it to like those trees that are on the cliffs or born in the rocks in this high, this really high altitudes and stuff like that too. And they go through much more difficulties. It says that when people go through a lot of tribulation, the mentality is strong and scary, right? And something says these people, if I were to score their mentality, it would be more than 10,000 times the average person. 10,000 times. These are the people with the ultimate mentality, the ultimate faith, and they're super strong in providence too. These are the people that have the Lord as the center. It's like sometimes said it's like your mentality is like a diamond. So even if, and sometimes he said about himself, even though Satan attacked me 20, 30 billion times, they couldn't break him. Even though Satan came in front of God, just like Satan came to God for Job, that he's going to come and break him. But God made him strong, right? And that's why one of the things that we have to think about is, are you running away from the tribulation, or do you want to deal with it and become stronger? Because as long as we run away, we will never overcome it, and we're always going to be at that level of weakness. But it's only when you face the problems, keep going into the problems and solving the problems, this is when you become stronger, and your faith and mentality is 10,000 times stronger than the average person. And I think the following thing that Sun said actually makes more sense too. He says, guys, if you don't pray every day, you're going to shatter. You're going to be weak. Right? You have to think to yourself that if you don't pray, you can't sleep. You have to think that way. It's the same as just like if you haven't washed yourself. So we have to be those that pray and don't just, especially when it comes to slanders, people who oppose and come against us, right? You just can't leave them alone. We got to pray about it. Right? We got to pray. It's like, God, please don't leave these slanders alone, right? Tell God to not fulfill what their will, what they're trying to fulfill. There's one part here that was really interesting that I couldn't understand in the beginning when he talks about in order for human beings to know who you're talking to, you need to see their face. Right? So if you want to see a human being, if you want to know who you're talking to, you got to see their face. And at the beginning, what the first thought I had was? The first thought I was thinking is like, I know, that's like Zoom. It's like all these people, these weird people on Zoom that don't turn on their videos. You know what I mean? For me, it's like, you don't even know who it is. But, it's when you come to church, you're going to be on video, obviously. But why would you turn your video on Zoom? It makes no sense. It really doesn't make any sense to me if you don't turn on your video for Zoom. Right? That's the whole point of Zoom, is not for the audio. If you wanted to just do audio, you should just have an audio conference. But we do video because there's much more communication and information from looking at each other, right? So I thought he's talking about Zoom. And he says, no, but he says, but for you, for someone to really know who you are. So he's not talking about who am I as my face, but know who I am as a person. He says, it's about the message you tell them. The message you say needs to be said so that people know who you are. And I was like, whoa, that's so deep. Just as people need to see your face to know who you are like as a person, people need to know the message that you say. It's what you say. And that one was kind of like, it just put me into a deeper state of, wow, that's a really deep thing. So what we have, when you look in this world, we have to be those that tell people the message they need to hear, right? And if you look at the world itself, many people just want to have love more than anything else. And it's by evangelism that you can realize the eternal world and realize who God is. So we don't spend time in any other things, like Sansi said, that's why just don't spend time in other stuff. But you need to, like, after you go out to eat, go and evangelize, right? People who love God, they should go and talk about God. It's so simple, but it's so deep. People who love God should go and talk about God. Because who else will talk about God except those who love him? So this is why, once again, Sunsim says it again, it's about speaking well. And that's like, yeah, that's so deep. It's about speaking well, right? So those who go and evangelize, right? So Sunsim was giving some good tips, right? So remember, I'm not sure what happened, but he's talking about something that happened. He says, there are people that bring newcomers to me, but you got to listen to the Lord's message and don't cut me off, right? When the king is speaking, why would you cut off the king when he's speaking? Even you need to hear the word. So, he says, be careful. Don't cut in when the king is speaking. Listen to the Lord's message because God's message comes through his mouth. If it's like when the car ignition starts, then you got to let the ignition continue, right? So I'm not sure what happened, but it seems like someone was butting in on what Sunsim was saying. And then Sunsim's advice for team evangelists, I really love this too. He said, like in soccer, Sunsim said he passed the ball to someone, and then all they were doing is just by themselves, they're just dribbling around. They're just dribbling around on their own. And Sunsim looked at them and says, no, they're not going to score on their own, right? They're going to need to do it together as a team. They're not even passing, so Sunsim didn't even pass to them again. So he says, in the same way, when it comes to team evangelism, you need to work together, right? Don't just cut in on people when they're speaking to a newcomer. Appoint someone who is good at talking to do the talking, and then you need the people around them to support it, right? And he says, it's just like catching a baby rabbit, which is super quick. Plan well so that you can catch the rabbit well. Plan it perfectly. Because if you don't, it's not going to work out, just like trying to catch a baby rabbit, right? And then what's interesting is he's talking about decorations. It's like, think about when you're decorating a stage, right? When you decorate a stage, then you call the singer to sing. But if you don't decorate it first, then the singer's not going to come in and sing in like a crappy place, right? If the stage isn't set up, it affects the atmosphere, and people might even think that the singer's not that good anymore, right? And so I was like, wow, that's, you're kind of dressing things up is you need someone who can speak really well, right? And you also need the people around creating the atmosphere. And probably the other thing I really agree with is you got to be calm and patient when you evangelize. Just stop rushing into things. Like even right now in Southeast Asia, we're going to have like a passing ceremony with Sunsteam like next Saturday. And the thing that I always see is, oh my gosh, Sunsteam's getting the passing ceremony, so let's rush people into passing. And I'm like, don't do that. Yes, Sunsteam's going to give the passing ceremony. Yes, I understand that, but it doesn't mean you have to rush people into it. It's better to have someone who really understands. That's why Sunsteam was talking about the person who comes to evangelize and brings a newcomer to me should just say, I have learned from him, and because of him, I am following and I believe in God, right? It's like, it's kind of someone who's decorating it so that that Sunsteam can speak well, right? So I hope that we too can be calm and patient, not rush people into passing. There's no point of rushing people into passing, right? It's okay. If there's only 5 people that pass, that's fine. You'd rather have these people pass who are ready to pass instead of people who are rushed into it and they're going to struggle even more. And then Sunsteam went back into about cleaning yourself, the nature surrounding all the, clean God's temple. And he said that, I liked how he said, like, it's like brushing your teeth inside and outside elegantly, right? Cleaning the dead skin off your body, right? And then he says, after you clean yourself really well, then put on the makeup. And we're like going, okay, what do you put on makeup? I'm a guy. And God's like, putting on makeup in God's temple is the interior design. Right? And he says, I'm still doing the makeup in God's temple. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Right? So, getting all the big stuff done, which is the inside, outside, cleaning yourself really well. And then now all the big stuff is done, which is what? Like building the temple and getting all the big construction done, which is the outside. Then the inside is making yourself up. So in the same way, people can still be clean and pretty when they don't have makeup on, but it's like beautifying yourself. And that's like the interior design. The colors of the wall, the paintings you put up, all these other different things like that. So, I thought that was quite cool how he put that in. But he said, you got to decorate yourself, make yourself pretty and handsome. and asked the Holy Spirit how to do it. And so he's like, how do I do this to myself? And it's like playing sports. I was like, hallelujah, gotta play sports. And it's inspiring me again, guys. I gotta play sports again. Make yourself, he says, I'm making myself like I'm making a statue. It's difficult, but he says he ran 150,000 times, right? And of course, doesn't it feel good that Sunseem's not like really overweight and obese? It's great that he's in shape. And I like this point. He says, popular people are healthy people. If your face is beautiful, but you're not healthy, then people aren't going to acknowledge it. You got to be healthy, right? So your youth comes back from when you're healthy, when you're exercising. And that in itself has made me want to exercise again. Okay, I got to do it, even though I have to do it inside my house. All right. So that was the word study for today. Hope that's something that really made you think a lot about the Tuesday morning message too, as we have the Wednesday message tonight also. So that puts us into the song of choice for today. And I chose this song because it's about the one I miss. So, we haven't been able to go to Wimbledon for a long time. So this is a song from Wiz Khalifa. It's called See You Again, featuring Charlie Puth. And this is from the Furious 7 soundtrack. And it's kind of reminding me, I can't wait till we go back so we can see him again, all right? So this is Wiz Khalifa with See You Again, featuring Charlie Puth.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through, that I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays. Now I see you in a better place. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I would do, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way, from where we began.
You know we started.
Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
Let me tell you.
When I see you again.
First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong. And what's small turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken. The love will never get lost. And when brotherhood come first, then the line will never be crossed. Established it on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach. So remember me when I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
Let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
that's Wiz Khalifa with the song See You Again featuring Charlie Puth. That's from the Furious 7 soundtrack, and I chose that song because a lot of us for over a year haven't been able to go into the natural temple. We can't even visit each other, right, because of the pandemic, but I can't wait to see him again, right, guys? All right, so that was the song of choice for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed that, which means we're getting into the final segment for today, and it's Wednesday. We're going to do Victory Rhymes by Youngse in South Africa.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Victory Rhymes here on the Morning Star Drive. This is where I share all the inspiring poetry with you, all of you. I'm Youngse, I'm from South Africa, and I'm currently living in South Korea. Now, if you've written something that you want to share, or you want to nominate someone else to share something they wrote, or you just want to share your favorite poem, doesn't matter who wrote it, doesn't matter what it's about, if you like it and you'd like to share it, please send it to me through the email in the description box below, and I'd love to get in contact and share your favorite poem. Now, today's poem was sent in by Pastor Sky himself. It's called Footprints in the Sand, and it was written by Margaret Fishback Powers. Powerful name, and many of you might know it. And you might not recognize the title, Footprints in the Sand, but I'm sure when you listen to it, especially that last line, you're gonna be like, I know, I've heard this before. And you're probably inspired by it, and you've probably thought about it many times before, but you never made the connection that it's this poem. So Pastor Sky said that it was one of the first poems I ever read. There was a picture of this poem on my wall in my house, but I never really read it until much later in life. But it struck a chord again during this pandemic time. This pandemic time has been a struggle for all of us. In various ways, we've been affected by it. At least we've all been affected by the mask, right? That's a tribulation on its own, am I right? Like wearing that mask, but it keeps us safe, so we wear it with pride. But yeah, we've been affected in various ways. Maybe we've lost some opportunities, or we couldn't do our part-time job as we did before, or we've had some financial difficulties, or in several ways many people struggled. All of us were affected by it. We couldn't travel, or we couldn't go visit the loved ones. And so in various ways there must have been difficulties for all of us. And by listening to this poem, I hope that you gain strength. I hope this poem is a big pickup for you and will be the strength that you need today. So let's listen to the poem called Footprints in the Sand. One night I dreamed a dream. As I was walking along the beach with my Lord, across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene, I noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my Lord. After the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. I noticed that at many times along the path of my life, especially at the very lowest and saddest times, there was only one set of footprints. This really troubled me, so I asked the Lord about it. Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why. When I needed you the most, you would leave me. He whispered, "My precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never ever during your trials and testings. When you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you." This was the poem called Footprints in the Sand, shared with us by Pastor Sky. How beautiful is this poem? It's so touching, and I think we can all relate to it. We've all been through a difficult time in our lives, and there might have been times that when you're really at your lowest, your saddest, when you went through the toughest time, when you felt like you were walking alone. But in fact, the one pair of footprints was the Lord carrying you through that difficult time. So if you're going through a hard time right now, don't forget that the Trinity and the Lord are always with you. And don't forget to talk to them. God knows everything. God is omnipotent and omniscient. But He always says, tell me. So let's just tell the Lord, tell God, tell Holy Spirit, and always know that they're with us. Even when we feel like it is so difficult, they are carrying us. And the one set of footprints in the sand is them carrying us. So that brings us to the end of our Victory Rhyme segment for today. I hope you have an amazing day with the Lord, and I hope you make a lot of memories and stories and receive all the Lord's revelations to you. I'll be back again next week. This is Youngse. Goodbye.
And there you go. Thank you so much, Youngse from South Africa, currently living in Korea, for Victory Rhymes once again. And yes, that was a poem that I wanted to share because it was something that I was just reading the other day when I was doing lecture training, and it was really inspiring and moving. Just sometimes we forget and we feel alone at times, but I hope that was something that really inspired you guys too. All right, guys, that was the last segment for today. I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome Wednesday. And of course, we have the Wednesday message tonight. I hope you guys have an amazing time for during service, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.
I'm good